The upcoming expansion of the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel could cost taxpayers a lot more than just construction expenses. We've uncovered a pricey clause deep in a state contract. It entitles Elizabeth River crossings to large government payouts if Virginia builds alternative routes. 13 News Now investigative reporter Laura Geller joins us with the story.
This is a bad deal for the taxpayers. That's the word from the state finance secretary about the stipulation we uncovered. We've learned it is possible Virginia could owe millions of dollars. That's money taken away from other necessities your tax dollars fund.
Hundreds of pages of legal jargon, amendments, and dozens of exhibits. This is the contract between the state and Elizabeth River Crossings. Negotiated back in 2011 under then-Governor Bob McDonnell, it is the agreement to build, operate, and maintain the Midtown and Downtown tunnels and MLK Expressway.
And there's a lot going on in this contract.
Legal analyst Ed Booth dissects this section about alternative facilities.
That's a defined term in the contract, and it means a number of things. But one thing that it clearly means, because it's also defined in the contract, is an expansion of the Hampton Roads Bridge Tunnel.
We now know that HRBT expansion is happening, triggering another part of the contract.
It's a compensation event, which is another defined term. And a compensation event basically means that if there's construction of an alternate facility, then the state could be responsible for paying compensation.
Booth believes negotiators for ERC thought ahead.
Built into this contract is the idea that if they lose money, the taxpayers are responsible.
We went to the man now responsible for executing the Commonwealth's budget.
Does this seem like a good deal for the taxpayers?
No.
Secretary of Finance Aubrey Lane explains how this would work.
They would make their claim, and it's a pretty high bar. They have to prove that their revenues have been impacted.
Because of the contract language, tolls on the HRBT expansion might be a mitigating factor. Lane believes the hot lanes don't eliminate the possibility of a payout, but they could substantially reduce what damages ERC can claim.
Down the road, how do you craft a budget if you don't know exactly how much the state is going to owe?
Until we actually have a claim, it will not impact the budget. But once it becomes a real claim, and that it looks like we're going to have to be, we'll have to deal with it.
Lane will likely suggest the money come from transportation funding, but it could also come from the general fund, which pays for things like education and public safety.
Whether it's $1 million or more than that, it will be taking something from somewhere else.
That possibility will linger for decades. The stipulation lasts the entirety of the contract, all 58 years.
If you were negotiating this contract today, would you put this clause in there?
Absolutely not.
Hindsight is 20/20, but Lane says the idea we would not need new crossings in Hampton Roads for almost 6 decades was probably short-sighted.
We will protect the citizens as much as we can, but the contract is the contract.
In response to our questions, an ERC spokesperson says the expansion isn't expected to open for years, and ERC's attention remains focused on the near term, including continuing to operate and maintain a safe facility, improve customer service, and increasing the saturation of E-ZPass in the Hampton Roads region. Laura Geller, 13 News Now.